All right, guys, welcome back. Hear Me Out podcast. I'm joined by my boy Brooks. As always, how you doing today, man?
I'm fantastic, man. A little sore from working out, but I'm good otherwise.
Leg day,
Soft
man. Leg
flex.
day. You already know
Soft flex.
how I get down in the gym, man.
Yes,
And today
sir.
we have two special guests from the Mikasa Sukasa Network. We have Niko House and David. How you doing today, gentlemen?
What's up, man? Doing well.
Good,
Doing
I
well.
can't-
Excited. Thanks for having us on.
Man, we in 80-degree weather. I don't know where y'all at, but y'all got sweaters on and shit. That's what I see.
Living it
We don't
up.
got
Yeah,
no
we're
sweaters
in
on.
Maryland, man.
Short sleeve.
Same side as your,
Big
as your
Bird,
friend
man.
Franco.
305
305, baby.
305 live.
Yes, sir, man. Out in
Go ahead
Florida,
and say
man, the
for all
weather
those
must be
people out
nice
there, I
out
gotta
there.
say, for all those people out there that was talking all that shit 6 months ago, y'all was like, oh my God, everybody dying out there. Them Florida people crazy. Y'all got zombies on bath salts and shit. Stay y'all cold asses right where y'all at. We don't want you. Stay over there, please. Way over there. Way over there. We like our 80-degree weather and no state taxes. Okay? So just want y'all to keep that same energy, but go ahead.
Yeah, slight Florida flex, man. Slight Florida flex. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely big, freezing cold out here, man. I'm jealous of your guys' weather out there, man. I can't
Go
wait
to the beach a little
skate.
bit, actually.
Yeah, man. So I guess before we get started, man, let's talk a little bit about you guys. Mikasa Sukasa Network. You guys are both are close friends. You guys told me at the beginning. So where can we find you? Mikasa Sukasa. Tell us a little bit about that before we get started today.
So Mikasa and Sukasa is actually my show. The network's the MCSC network, which is technically short for Mikasa and Sukasa. But MCSC network is basically like a collaborative and a cooperative of journalists that where we all have very similar approaches to our logic, although we may sometimes find different conclusions, which is very rare. We give unique approaches to our logic, and we kind of use the same type of logical principles regardless of what we're discussing. So obviously for most people, they know I discuss politics. That's my bread and butter. But also a lot of principles that can be applied to politics, a lot of issues that are discussed in politics they actually carry over a lot into sports. And we started the sports show, me and my guy Dave over here, after we would have hours and hours of conversations like the conversation that really had just never been discussed, for example, is the mid-range game. We had talked about, I don't know if you remember back in the day, we was talking about the Thunder. So before Roberson got injured, they were the number one defensive team, but we had said that at the time, before he got injured, that they had the best chance to win a championship because the mid-range game is actually what wins championships because of the psychological aspect of what the mid-range game does to somebody. Because not everybody should be taking that shot, but like the superstar being able to hit that shot consistently over everybody's head changes the psychological approach to the entire game, which is why you see somebody like Kawhi, even Curry being able to hit his mid ranges effectively, that floater so effectively, or even Jamal Murray. When players get that, that's how they win championships. That's a lot of psychology behind that. And so we talk about approach when we're talking about politics, when we're talking about sports, or social issues in general, which oftentimes intersect. So, we just have a good time, and we try to keep it light. 'Cause we know a lot of this shit's heavy as it is, and that's why we like to talk sports. But overall, we just like talking to how we talk it and doing it our way.
Yeah, so you can catch us on MCSC Network. We're on Rockfin and YouTube under Double Tech Podcast, where we cover the NBA. Like Niko said, it's kind of a perspective of the psychological implications of how teams are going to manage their rotations, manage their personalities, and then how that's going to affect them towards playoff times, how they're acting and corresponding to social issues that we face. And like some of the things that we talked about is Malik Beasley going through what he went through with the gun charges and being charged with assault. We talk a lot about how the bubble was affecting people mentally and Paul George's mindset, as well as LeBron. So if you check us out on Double Tech Podcast, that's kind of what our focus is in the NBA, but also NFL as well.
Yeah, we also talked about the fact that Doc Rivers is an overrated coach because nobody knew. This is like something. Nobody knows about this. Whatever, nobody talks about it.
He's got to take your Doc Rivers
was
shot.
Supposed to go to the Pacers with Paul George. And
Say
like
it again.
so, like stuff
what
like
was that about Paul George?
AD was supposed to go to the Pacers with Paul George. Everything
Yeah,
was lined
I
up. AD was going to go.
Anthony Davis wanted to play with Paul George, and Indiana wouldn't
But that never made like the mainstream headlines, although that's like a major deal, right? So like now you're trying to figure out if the Pacers are even about winning, or Doc Rivers finding out that Doc Rivers didn't make any adjustments in the playoffs with the Clippers and Paul George when they were going down, or they were about to go down, and then Nuggets had that amazing comeback. Like things like that, I feel like is what people really want to be hearing about. And the mainstream in sports media don't really get into the nitty gritty. They want to follow storylines rather than the story.
When you're looking at Brooklyn, we know they have 3 of the top scorers to ever play in the NBA, but will the chemistry work, and what had to change? So, and immediately after the trade on Double Tech, we're predicting, okay, well, James Harden is the new point and Kyrie is the new shooting guard, which is then revealed in their conversations 2 to 3 weeks later, because mentally you just have to be able to see how the relationships are going to correspond on the court.
Sure.
And
that's
I'm
just playing to their strong
points. I'm glad y'all said that about Doc Rivers, man, because we have a video about Doc Rivers too. We're talking about how this guy has lost all the game 7s he's been to. He's blown 4 3-1 leads, I believe it is.
3-1 leads.
Bro, go through the list of Hall of Famers he's had at the same time.
And he cannot manage an injury. If there's one injury, they're out. Like if Kendrick Perkins is injured, doesn't matter.
KG,
Rondo, we're out for the count.
Insane.
It's that 2008 Boston Celtics syndrome, man. They won that one chip and just juiced it out until the end of time. All of them, KG, Paul Pierce, Doc Rivers, all of them.
Which wasn't even Doc Rivers coaching, it was Kevin Garnett's. That's why they won. And that's why every time Kevin Garnett was out, they had no idea what to do.
Yeah, he's a defensive coordinator.
Right. Yeah, man, and it's cool to see that you guys are so in tune with the sports world too, because your channel is mostly political commentary. So to see that you guys got the sports thing going on as well is really dope. It's multifaceted network that you guys got going on there.
I was probably one of the very few people in the country, now I think about it, that I was an all-state, all-American track runner. I played soccer too.
Really?
And I was like a nationally recognized debater as well. So like I won several tournaments across the country in both high school and college. And so these issues often intersect when you're like when you're looking at it from my perspective, because like I said, my approach logically is the same. And so like I said, me and Dave and my brother, who's also one of the co-hosts for the show, like we'll go out in the public, man, and somehow we get into a conversation about politics and it turns into sports, but it's because of something that happened in politics and how somebody in sports reacted to that. You know what I'm saying? And you realize and we get into like really passionate discussions about this, like at a bar, and you realize how many people crave discussion like that. And that's where we came up with the show Double Tech, just because it's like the stuff that we're talking about, you know what I'm saying? It can be like offensive if depending on what perspective you're from. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's kind of like you need to hear it because like this is the reality. We were saying, Kyrie Irving, James Harden needs to go to a team like that where he's the third best player. A lot of people took that offensively. It's like, no, we're not saying he's not amazing, but you just got to understand what kind of player you got. Sometimes you're James worthy, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely.
Or like in the case of Kyrie, where he needs to take time off for mental health.
And we were
going to blame him and say, oh, well, he did the wrong thing? Why? You would take off if he had the flu, and he needs to get his head right if he wants to compete at the highest level.
CEOs take off whenever they want to.
Of course, they go golfing.
You know what I'm saying? Because they want to take a break.
So, yeah, you have a service to the fans, and you don't want to miss out on a game. Well, Kyrie only comes to my city one time, especially if you're playing against the opposite conference.
Yeah.
You don't want to miss those games. So we understand the fans.
Well, he needed communication. That's the only issue with that.
Yeah, that's the main issue right there.
That was the main issue.
Understood, but also when you're Steve Nash, you're going into a situation where you have to understand the personality of your players first and foremost.
Yeah,
it's not. Is it on Kyrie to communicate, or is it on Steve Nash to check in on you? Like Steve Nash, the first time coaching, he has everything on his plate.
It definitely was on Kyrie because they did try to check up on him.
Hey, I'm not saying that he didn't do wrong. All I'm saying is that if he needs to take some time off and he's not in a mental place where I can even tell you that. Sometimes I know when I'm struggling, I can't even tell you that I need some time off. I just want to avoid the whole thing.
Yeah, that's true.
So
we've all called out without wanting to, we've all called out. So
exactly. Or just walked out and didn't come back. Didn't come back after lunch.
We were just talking about that the other day in person.
I ain't never done that before.
I've had one of them days.
I be had to pay bills and shit. I can't walk out during my lunch. I need that whole paycheck. Bro. You know what I'm saying? Well, you a nigga, bro. You gotta pre-plan when you gonna quit some shit. You gotta have 2 weeks.
I called an emergency right there. I was out.
Nah, goddamn, when you hourly, you gotta get the check, bro. We ain't salary,
Facts. Make it up.
So there you have it, man. So We got into some basketball and some football already, so let's go ahead and get into our first topic, man. LeBron James, who obviously was the #1 pick in 2003. He's, I would say, exceeded most expectations, if not all of them. He's lived up to the hype, and now we see an article that came out about, it was earlier this week, where they were saying LeBron feels he could have been the next Randy Moss. For those that don't know, he was a highly touted high school football player. He was all-state in his junior year in Ohio. Great player, man. He was like the highlights that I seen look solid. But I want to know what you guys think. Is this a far-fetched statement to compare himself to the great Randy Moss, who in a lot of people's eyes is the best receiver of all time? I'll start with you on this, Brooks. Is this a reach, or is this somewhere that's actually kind of comparable?
Man, I mean, so I read the story that was up on The Athletic, and they were talking about, just some crazy stories about how, he would do the one-hand catches when at the time everybody was trying to do the two-handed catches, right? And how, he was able to take slants 90 yards. He was able to do screens 90 yards, all these different things. The dude had an unbelievable skill set. And at 6'8", there's no one that big other than like Megatron or, of course, Randy Moss. You could say Jerry Rice. So, I mean, I would have to see what he would do. What he would have done at Ohio State, right? Because that's probably where he would have gone to play football and basketball. If he had a great career in Ohio State, I think he could have been that. But I'm not going to say Randy Moss. I'd probably say someone like maybe down low. But I am a fan of LeBron. I would love to see him play football, but nah, he's not going to be a Randy Moss.
You and everyone else, man. LeBron's fan base is so toxic, bro. So toxic. So toxic.
You just had to throw that out there.
But I will say this, man. I love LeBron, man. I just so happen to be the guy. I might just be an anomaly, man, but I am the kind of guy who loves LeBron and loves Michael Jordan and can still talk shit about both of them, man, because the whole Lakers fan base teamed up with the LeBron fan base, man, and it just became one of the most toxic Beyonce level fan bases, man.
They have this
Beyonce level, bro.
They have
the Navy.
So I'm gonna let Dave take it. I'll answer it too, but I know what he gonna say, and I don't want to take his talking point because he's actually the first person that ever brought his talking point up to me, because the conversation of the LeBron stands have been making this argument for LeBron.
Of course.
But I'm gonna go ahead and tell him what you're gonna tell him about that.
So with the NFL, LeBron, first had an opportunity with Cleveland. They reached out to him whenever he was with the Cavs. So this isn't the first time that this is brought up. As a 6'8" player, he would be the first of his kind in the league to play wide receiver, right? And be top level. You brought up Megatron, and he's a Hall of Famer, but he's 6'5". You're on a whole different level here.
Really 6'4".
First of all, the coaches would have to avoid placing you at tight end, which is taking away from a majority of the skill set of LeBron when you ask him to block. Then, if the state of the league in 2003 wasn't as tight end centric as it became when Belichick got Gronkowski and got Hernandez, and you saw Antonio Gates throughout the 2000s. So with him, if he was outside at receiver at 6'8", one of my major concerns and why I don't think that he would be an elite wide receiver is injuries. And the ability to cut on a dime and make the transitions when you're that size, even though LeBron is an athletic freak, people are going for his knees. Calvin Johnson lasted 9 years on the Lions and retired early because of playing for the Lions, but also because of injuries. And the injuries were a major factor to his hands, to his knees, and getting popped in the legs is what would have had to happen, especially if you look into the league now where, okay, every defender is worried about getting fined for the concussion or hitting you with my shoulder pad in the face and there being a fine. Well, everyone's going for LeBron's knees at that point. And so now he's missing 3, 4 to 5 games just off the strength of sprained ankle. What if there's a major injury?
Mm-hmm.
So yes, he's a weapon at the level of Gronkowski, like where he could take over a game. Sure, I believe that. But consistency is a huge factor because of his size in the NFL.
I tend to agree. It would have been a short-lived career, first of all, and I don't even think that he would be Gronkowski level. The thing that people forget about LeBron, that he forgets about professional level NFL players like Randy Moss, like Jerry Rice, even look at Terrell Owens or Michael Irvin. LeBron's footwork is trash. It is historically and notably trash. You're not, and you know he got the foot problem on top of that. And he got duck feet on top of that.
Yep.
To be a good Randy Moss level wide receiver, bro, like in my opinion, that's disrespectful to Randy Moss.
Mm-hmm. He didn't just run straight
because
like
you're running, you think because you can run a deep route and catch a jump ball like that, you're Randy. No. Randy Moss, when he hit them slant routes, bro, he's chopping and taking off on you out there. Yep. LeBron can't turn a corner like that. He can go downhill. So that and that would probably be more useful as a tight end. But the problem is you wouldn't be able to run many other tight end routes because your route running would not be that good. In addition to that, you'd be getting chopped like every single play because you're 6'8". If there's a certain height level, there's like a height limit to being effective. Now, here's what he should have said. I would have been a monster defensive end. You wouldn't be able to do shit with LeBron at defensive end.
That's true.
That would have been, you wouldn't be able to do nothing with LeBron defensive. Oh my God.
If he wanted to play offense, I could see Travis Kelce style. Like if he played like Travis Kelce.
Yeah, but Travis Kelce, once again, has the footwork. LeBron does not have the route, would not. He just wouldn't.
Yes, but there's also a box out to Kelce's game. There's also a body positioning that LeBron can translate from basketball. That's a big deal.
But I feel like the footwork is just such an important thing. I played wide receiver before,
right?
And like that's the thing that will make or break you when you have. Because we've seen players with all the athleticism, and yet when they get to the league, that whatever worked in college doesn't work anymore because all these cornerbacks are more athletic than the wide receivers for the most part. Like if you're an athletic wide receiver in college, guess what you're playing in the NFL now? Yeah. Cornerback or free safety.
Yep. And there's two other things that make me feel like this wouldn't work out. First of all, LeBron is a control freak. So I'm not playing wide receiver. I'm playing quarterback.
Now that I believe actually will work.
I got to have the ball. Secondly, I have to want the ball in the clutch moment when LeBron is going to pass.
Can we say something?
So
real
two
quick?
reasons as to why
I don't know. I don't know if those two things compare though, man.
About LeBron real quick. Why
I
is LeBron
I want to hear the rebuttal when you're done, Niko.
Yeah, sure. But I want to ask why y'all think LeBron always want to be something that he's not. Like, what's up with his obsession of like, because like everybody knows intuitively, bro, you're 6'8", you have a rocket for an arm. Why wouldn't you say I could have been Warren Moon on steroids?
LeBron could have been the best quarterback.
He would have been the best quarterback in the history of the NFL, and being 6'8" doesn't stop that. If anything, it all but fucking ensures it. Because you don't need the footwork to just go downhill. Lamar has the footwork, but like, Lamar can just get downhill. Like, but he always wants to be like, he wants to be a 3-point shooter so bad. But you're not a 3-point shooter. But he wants to be that.
Sometimes he is. He got years.
LeBron's better as a shooter,
like he chases after some of these things. Like remember when he was first coming up, everybody's like, bro, just go to the basket. Just go to the basket. Why do you want to be a midi shooter so bad? Just run to the damn basket. They can't stop you. But like he's not. But because he knows he can do it, it's like, yeah, I don't want to win that way. That's not challenging enough. So I want to try to do something I can't do.
And body conservation. You don't play 17 years by going down.
Yeah. $1 a year on your body.
I don't need to drive on the Kings 20 times.
Well, that's different.
You know what I'm saying?
Hey, but Niko, man, you got to give it to him. LeBron added that 3-point shot this year. He's shooting 40%.
Yeah,
the jump shot has been crazy ever since his last year in Cleveland. He's really put like that emphasis towards being a mid-range shooter, something that you guys were alluding to earlier in the show being very important in a lost art in the game.
Yeah. Him and Butler were going back and forth a lot last year in the finals with their mid-range games. I was impressed with
LeBron's first go-to shot in the mid-range that he developed was the low block left post in Miami.
Right.
When
that was that work that he put in with Hakeem right there. But as far as the Randy Moss comparison, I'm gonna have to go ahead and agree with you guys on this one, man. You can't use All-State high school as your stepping stone to be an NFL great. It's just not right. And you guys are saying once you reach the next level of you go from Pop Warner to middle school to high school, the competition is gonna keep getting better. And if you can,
my fault. You go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, if you're not like the best player in your state, like all state Ohio, it's not enough. If you're not the guy, then chances are you're probably going to be a run-of-the-mill college player, and then a run-of-the-mill college player might not even get drafted in the league. LeBron's calling has always been basketball. I mean, he's freak of nature, like you guys said, and I'm glad y'all pointed out. I've never heard anybody say that LeBron has poor footwork. He does look like he has two left feet
That's why his dribble is so trash.
Yeah, his dribble is trash. We've seen him travel on key, moments towards the end of the game where he's going towards the basket.
And
bad
it's
turnovers.
On offense for a lot of people, but defensively, the way that he gets out of position is because he's tripping over.
Yes, and nobody ever
especially whenever he doesn't hedge off of a screen or he's like allowing someone to get underneath him, he has to reset his feet to try to get behind the 3-point line. And that's usually a little bit late in the moments where he kind of trips on himself.
Versus another big guy like KD. Obviously, KD is 7-footer. But KD's pull-up is because he gets choppy feet, stops, and can pull up from anywhere. That's footwork. Steph Curry's footwork, Kyrie Irving is footwork. You can even make an argument that Giannis, like where he has bad footwork in some instances, like, and that's usually when he's trying to when he's on the arc. But once he gets down low, the shit that makes Giannis dangerous is because for whatever reason, he has this left foot of his can dunk from anywhere within the 3-point arc. And he can pass from anywhere within the 3-point arc. And on defense, his footwork is choppy so that no matter where you're on the floor, you're not safe anymore. Like, because he can get to you. That footwork is so incredibly important when you're talking about, once again, whether it be in basketball, but especially for a wide receiver. You're not getting separation without footwork. I don't give a shit who you are. And you are not running a 4-3.
Right.
LeBron, where the hell are you? Like, where your 4-3 at? You're not Randy? What?
This is GOAT Randy Moss. We're not talking about, this is in conversation for the best receiver to ever play. Yeah. So the audacity.
And the only thing that separates, in a lot of people's minds, Jerry Rice and Randy Moss is what? Randy Moss is what? Footwork and route running.
LeBron would hope to possibly maybe be as good as Odell. And you want to talk about Randy? No.
And Odell that's already a high bar to be set right there for LeBron.
Exactly.
The conversation is kind of like conversation's kind of like, you remember in Napoleon Dynamite when the uncle was like, I could have been, they put me in the game, I could have been an All-State, I could have been a Hall of Famer, this, that, and the third.
I could throw it over them mountains.
Exactly. It's just like that conversation. Man.
Hey, listen, the other day I was golfing at Top Golf. And
Pedro's a top golfer at HMO.
Love it, man. Love
this professional golfer looks over because he sees me hitting the ball like 135 miles per hour, which I didn't know was a thing. I didn't know that was like a big deal, but apparently it is. And like, I laughed at him, like, but I was joking. I'm like, oh, so what you're saying is I could basically be Tiger Woods because I can do something that no other. No, motherfucker, there's a whole ass thing that goes into being Tiger Woods.
Yeah.
Like, just hit the ball as fast as that nigga don't mean that you are Tiger Woods. Just because you can run and jump higher than Randy Moss doesn't mean you're Randy Moss, bro. Like, that's disrespectful. I would never we don't even call Giannis LeBron because LeBron is the own thing because there's so much that goes into being LeBron. So it's the same concept. Kobe is Jordan's twin. People still be like, ugh, don't call him Jordan, though. He's just not quite as good because there's just so much work that goes into being this unique thing. And Randy Moss is one of those unique things, and being great at that position is one of those unique things.
Talent only takes you so far, and this goes beyond sports. If you're a good if you're a good rapper, but you're some shit at business, you won't make it anywhere. It's the same thing in football. You can be good at football, but if you don't got the fundamentals, everything down packed, you're not going to make it that far. I'm not saying LeBron couldn't be a good football player, but a great or even Randy Moss level player is a reach for the stars that I can't agree with.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed.
We're all in agreement on that, man. Randy Moss, arguably one of the greatest in my eyes. He is the GOAT wide receiver of all time. He played with lesser quarterbacks than Jerry Rice ever did. He didn't get the same numbers, but talent wise, I don't think there's anybody past him.
Randy also took years off that everybody knew he was taking off until he went to a good team.
His Raiders years were nobody cared about it. He pulled a Hardy.
For sure, when it was unpopular,
straight cash,
and with no support, but it paid off for him because he knew what time it was. He's like, yeah, y'all are NFL players with names on your back, bitch. I'm Randy.
Randy Moss got Bill Belichick to go to the skating. I just want you to know that. Like, come on, that's true. Go
word.
Yeah, so we're all in agreement on that one, man. Staying in the football world, however, there was a tragedy in the football world with former Tampa Bay and San Diego football player Vincent Jackson, also a wide receiver. He passed away at the age of 38. He was found in his hotel. It brought a big conversation about how retired football players should be taken care of by the league because they basically get forgotten about. Once you're out of the league, you're not making them any more money. It seems like they just forget about you. You're just a lost cause. But what are your thoughts on this Vincent Jackson situation and the way that they've been handling retired athletes, specifically football players?
So this is something a lot of people don't know about me. So when I started a lawsuit against the Democratic Party after 2016, the lawyers that I worked with actually were they won actually a CTE case against the NFL. Talking to them about that is what gave me so much insight into how much the NFL covers it up. And there could be an argument that the reason that the NFL is going so hard to try and not and take care of these retired players is because once you open that rabbit hole and they start going to get the help and, being able to put themselves in a position to be taken care of to a degree and be observed over a period of time, then you'll start to begin to see the pattern of the NFL, the negligence there. And this is the reality of CTE. I think Aaron Hernandez was a victim of CTE that entire time, combined with obviously the extenuating circumstances of his life growing up. The fact of the matter is, Aaron Hernandez has been one of the best players ever all the time, like always, period. And so what happens is if you have any negative characteristics on CTE, a lot of people say it's exacerbated. A lot of people say that's why Mayweather ended up snapping and beating his kid. That's why Adrian Peterson snapped a little bit when he was spanking his kid. Same thing with your boy Ray Rice. A lot of the things that you normally CTE seemingly takes people out of character, and it has to be taken seriously. But there clearly is an overall conspiracy, in my humble opinion, by the NFL because they can afford it. This is what the wealthiest industry in the country. They can afford to take care of these retired players. The NBA, even though they make more money, their money is more guaranteed. Their Players Association already secured the bag for retired players, and in fact, now they're getting paid more than in the new collective bargaining agreement. They're getting paid more. The retired players are getting paid more, and their health care is better. But for some reason, the NFL is actually actively preventing these retired players from getting taken care of, and I largely think that it's because they don't want to see that rabbit hole of CTE that a lot of people have been suspecting exists.
Sure. And David, man, what are your thoughts on this situation?
So the NFL in the previous CBA agreed to provide $100 million in concussion research over 10 years. $100 million over 10 years is $10 million per season. That's one cornerback's contract per season for the entire league's brain concern.
A good quarterback. So good cornerback.
We are obviously not putting the resources into like developing and studying the issues at hand with CTE. Then when you talk about the nature of the sport itself, there's a lot of football players who have grown up their entire life and they compare it to the brotherhood of war, right? Or like being in battle or being like in military. And that's not a fair thing to say because they don't have that true experience, but they do build a camaraderie and they do like have that life after where, okay, you're not a soldier anymore or you're not a football player anymore. Where do I go? And so the transition of resources of not only what were the effects on your brain while you played, but how do I take you into the next chapter of your life as a retired player has to be one of the main focuses of the NFL and all sports leagues going forward is what's the transition to life after the game? Because after the game, you're still a man. You're still a relatively young man. He's not 40, not even 40 years old. A lot to learn, a lot to grow, a lot to do.
38's young, bro. 38's young.
So this is someone that didn't have a history of drug use that was found 3 days later. He was missing from his family for a month, but staying in a hotel. So he's obviously going through some type of depressive episode. The contributing factors to that, I mean, I'm not sure we'll ever really know without private investigators or something like that. But I think that after the retirement, the league has to provide more resources medically and therapeutically for the transition post.
Right. Yeah, and that's a really important thing that you just highlighted there. They didn't find him for 3 days. He was missing from his family for a month. These guys get into the league at age 20 after being Pop Warner all the way up. All they know is football. Basically, 95% of their life is straight football. So when they get out, it's like everyone's asking. I read a thread on Twitter where there was a retired football player. I can't remember exactly who he was saying how, what do you do once you get out of there? Nothing is guaranteed. You know, it's that drive that you had your whole life. You achieved your goal of playing professional sports, and now what? You're 38 years old, and you have to start your entire life over again.
So I think it's important to mention. So what Dave said is true. Like, obviously, comparing himself literally to the military may not be fair. However, there is a staunch similarity that should be observed, which is that the league is 70% black. Just like the military, the NFL is oftentimes a poverty draft. In other words, there was nothing. My school district is underfunded because 90% of all schools are paid for by property taxes. If you're living in the hood, nobody owns anything. So who's paying for the school? You're left up to state funding, and we know how places are. So, like, one of the best football schools in our hometown was E.E. Smith. E.E. Smith had monster football players. Several have gone to the NFL. Guess what? They didn't have no choice. If you go to E.E. Smith and some people have the means to go maybe get private tutoring and things like that. But outside of that, if you're not a basketball player or football player from E.E. Smith, you're done. You're stuck in Fayetteville oftentimes. Every now and then they might get out. But, like, that's so oftentimes the reality of most football players in the NFL. So now they didn't have maybe the financial training and things like that, or the solid support system because of their circumstances prior to being in the NFL, just because of everything that comes with systemic racism. But then you go to the NFL, nothing's guaranteed. You probably weren't spending your money the best potentially. You get out the NFL, mental health is already stigmatized in the black community. Going to the doctor is stigmatized in the black community. Asking for help at all for anything is stigmatized in the black community. And if you're the one who got out and you made the money, you can't do any of those things in the black community. And so when the NFL abandons its players like this, we're not seeing Peyton Manning get goddamn CTE. We're not seeing Tom Brady get CTE. We're not seeing Aaron Rodgers get CTE. We're seeing the players that are oftentimes they're expected to be the most electrifying, the most entertaining, and they're supposed to take and give the biggest hits. And the reality of the situation is those are the black players, but unfortunately, those are also the players that in the NFL potentially, but definitely out of the NFL, had the least support coming in and getting out. And it is an absolutely a race issue if you don't deal with it, because basically what it looks like is, once again, we're going to use you up till we can't use you up no more, and then we're going to spit you out, like what we see a lot of times with these running back beasts that we've been seeing on the NFL team.
And tell you how we did you a favor for even giving you the opportunity at all.
Exactly.
And Pedro, I think what you're referring to for the tweet thread was probably Martellus Bennett's
Nah, it wasn't Martellus Bennett.
Oh, okay.
It was an older player, like somebody from like the 90s, early 2000s ish.
Okay, yeah, because what I was thinking was just how how you mentioned how football's kind of like war, that that's what they compare it to. It's kind of just like how
it's like, well, this is the strategy side, right? So there's a strategy to it. There's a camaraderie to it. There's like this manly he-man
and there's also like a boost of the ego. Like, you wouldn't send a soldier out there not thinking that I am like the rough and tough and baddest like dude on the planet in order to achieve the goal, in order to make it through and survive.
The no question
so
orders.
I have to that's
the big one.
I have to build up the people around me. So a lot of your self-identity and your confidence is now in the hands of other people.
Yep.
Because that's a commitment to a goal that is now the team, but the team's ultimate goal doesn't care about the individual. And so when your self-identity is then lost, when there's no team to be a part of, who knows if they can even share that with their family, like Niko was saying about being stigmatized throughout the community because, hey, you have more than we have, or your opportunity, like, how can you complain? You're ungrateful.
One of our best friends, NFL caliber lineman, we're not gonna say his name because it's his business, but when I tell you, he was off the bench every single play, drew a double team while he was at UNC. Every single play. It was disgusting. They couldn't do anything with him.
Right.
Now, for personal reasons, even though he had an opportunity to go to the NFL, he couldn't make it. And we can go delve into like there's a lot of circumstances. Once again, that support system, we were his support system and his mom, and that was basically it. It wasn't enough.
Right, the school it doesn't matter anymore.
Exactly. Well, so when he left football, he didn't know how to be a part of a team anymore. He just became isolated in every aspect. And this is one of like our best friends. We used to go to his football games all the time. Like, we go party together, we ride out together. I'm talking about used to pick him up from UNC to drive him back to his mama's house. We would go kick it all the time. Like, and he fell off, not because he doesn't love us, but because who am I without this? So like in that respect, it is like very similar to the military, because like not everybody's like me. I'm a veteran, but I was already an individual before I went into the military, and I came out an individual. Most people go into the military because they don't have an identity. Then when they get out and have to retire, they go seek to be part of whatever they can. Some people are, once again, unique, where like maybe you're mystical, where you become a rapper out of the Air Force, which nobody knows that. Yeah, but he became he was performing in the Air Force because he already knew I wanted to be this. A lot of people don't have that, and you see that in the NFL as well. So they got to start taking this issue more seriously because the game is getting faster and these players are getting stronger. And they're hitting, even though they're putting all these rules in place, bro, they're still hitting hard as hell.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So we know that the NBA, right, the rookies, they come in, they have the rookie symposium, they get the financial talk, they get the mental health talk, all these different things. What does the NFL do? Because we know that this is a huge problem with the culture.
That's all.
How do you save the locker room culture and all that?
So like a team would have to make their own thing. There's not a sanction like, 250 guys all come to a rookie camp. They usually have the rookie portion available to the individual teams earlier than the veterans, so they can appear in the park and that kind of stuff. I mean, COVID is a little bit different, but prior to that, the rookies would show up to your individual team because the way the NFL works is, well, I don't want those guys tainted by another program. Okay, I want to mold my guys type deal. It's how a lot of coaches and GMs think about it. So they want the chance to get their hands on a rookie and have them learn how to manage their life in their city individually. And a lot of times for me, I don't feel like that works because you're dealing with 53 players. Those rookies are not necessarily going to make the team or be a part of the organization after 1 year. Whereas in the NBA, there's a little bit more.
No, it's definitely like they're at least going to be on a team usually if they're a rookie. For at
least
3 years, at least going to be on a G League.
Because there's a minor league, at least being involved in the organization for longer.
Well, I think also because of the draft is only 2 picks, so I think you're a little bit more valuable.
Exactly.
Maybe, so that has a little bit to do with it.
Compared to 7 rounds.
Yeah. Exactly.
And money's guaranteed in the NBA.
I know this is going to sound, counterintuitive.
Guaranteed money is huge.
But like, I'm very like anti-NFL, although I like watching the NFL. But it's mostly, to be frank, it's for different storylines. And like, I like individual talent of players. Mm-hmm. I don't like the NFL. I don't like the way it's ran. I actually think that playing with uniforms on is stupid. That's what's causing the injuries because people use their uniforms as weapons. That's why I guarantee you there will be less injuries. Like, look at rugby, bro. The rugby injuries are far less than the NFL, and they're playing just as fast.
That's a shocker. That's a very violent sport. Less protection too.
Remember when we were at a restaurant one day, Dave? We were watching rugby. Like, yo, how is nobody injured right now? And they're boom, boom, and these dudes
motherfuckers,
rugby players' legs.
Well, there's huge, but there's less unanticipated collision.
But I feel like
that's
a lot
the main
of
thing
is
about
blind
football.
spot. Isn't a lot of that blind spot though?
A lot of it is blind spot, but also you have to think of rugby in the same vein of a soccer where it's a stamina-driven sport, right? So yes, there's strength and power that goes into it, but it's a stamina-driven sport. When we're talking about football, it is just acceleration. It is just an explosion sport. How far and how much can I do in 3 seconds or less? And that's what the quarterback has to do. That's what the corners have to do. And so when you're moving at that speed and with that burst type of force, that's what makes the collisions more dangerous.
But I still think it's safer to do it without pads because you have to be more considerate of your own injury.
That's an interesting take.
You know what I'm saying? It adds also I think it just adds another unique skill to because now I gotta wrap you. I'm not about to drive my shoulder into you. That's stupid. Why would I do that?
Right.
Now, and I think that the NFL would be deeper too.
Technique wise, using the shoulder pad as a weapon, as you say, or as a tool in the game is part of why it exists because it's easier to get you on the ground with that.
That's true.
That's why we have it, because if everyone was just trying to pull you down with arm tackles, I mean, Tyreek Hill dominates the game immediately, and he dominates the game now. Then it becomes flag football. That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of people that are
one thing you can do too is
I actually like watching flag football.
Of course, but like quickness is not the valued thing by the NFL audience. That's another thing that you have to take into account for. Like, for example, when you're talking about the fans of the NFL, they're not looking for the explosion and the quick dunks and getting up and down and we need to score 100 times. It's not. And a lot of times that's because of demographics.
That's true.
So we know the fact that white people like strength sports. There's nothing wrong with that. But
I think one thing that could help too, like you just mentioned how, I think no one actually mentioned this. Like you could play different sports. You could, all linemen, they end up wrestling. They learn how to put people down. They know how to safely do things. I think if you're able to do that with rugby or with football, you lead to less injuries. You learn how to actually take people down instead of just trying to hit them with the shoulder and try to just knock them out. You know what I mean? You gotta do different things. You gotta learn different things to make the sport safer. That's
how many
one thing
practices do they have where they don't even practice how to tackle?
They tell you in Pop Warner, man, wrap around. Don't arm tackle. Don't just rely on don't go with your helmet. Don't always try to just go with your shoulder. They try to teach you that, but that gets lost on you past high school. You know, after that, it's all about hard hits.
You see the rule changes, in my opinion. It actually
emphasizing technique.
Yeah, it emphasizes technique so much that you just gotta wonder, like, are the pads, do they still say the certain same? Matter of fact, you can still keep the helmet. Now, I think that I don't know if the helmet is as necessary, because like I said, I mean, I feel like everybody here has played football with, like, you know, just flag football or play tackle football with your friends. Like, when you don't have the helmet to protect you, you're not banging helmets, are you? Right. No, you're like, no, let me make sure I don't hit my head. Everybody trying to make sure. Now, it can happen. You can get concussed, but guess what? If you have a helmet on and it happens, you can get concussed.
Right.
So, like, but you're more conscious of being aware of it when you don't have your helmet on, in my opinion. Because you see a lot of NFL players, if we're being frank, they try to angle their helmets in such a way where they can still use their helmet without getting a flag.
Right.
So
yeah, we've seen that with the Chiefs.
Yeah, man.
With
Chiefs.
that one hit, I think it was in the Browns game. Oh man, I'm drawing a blank on the dude, number 49, straight helmet hit. They don't call stuff. They tend to call it every now and then, but they miss it a lot.
Get on a quarterback or
it's such a ticky-tacky thing. Such a ticky-tacky thing at that point.
And that goes back to what Niko and David were talking about in their video, talking about players being able to, if they contribute a lot to a certain team and you got certain amount of years in your contract, they should have some type of stake in the team or some type of ownership, because once these guys retire, exactly, and once these guys retire, they don't have to be in a weird limbo like how Vincent Jackson and several other, even Junior Seau was another notable one, where he took his own life because he had the CTE problems. He had the you know, just it wasn't, he was down bad after the retirement because they lack certain things like that, like how you guys were saying they should. And Junior Seau was a Hall of Fame level player. Vincent Jackson, I wouldn't say he's a Hall of Fame level.
Wasn't even high impact either. Wasn't even a high, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he wasn't dealing with quick and fast and sudden bursts of speed. Right. Just being in the trenches.
Just being in the trenches. And in his era, you know, it's shedding an O-lineman every play. I'm going against somebody 50 pounds larger than me every play.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, yeah.
They definitely got to have some more ownership in there, and I'm gonna link the video for the video that we're referencing from Niko and David. The link is in the description. Definitely check that video out. Everywhere.
Appreciate that. Yep.
Appreciate or not. I don't know why I said appreciate. No, but check that out. Check out the video. Link is in the description. Let's move on to our next topic here, guys. So we got Chris Webber is now teaching a class on athlete activism at Morehouse University. We seen that he was in the bubble and he was very emotional during the Bucks once they had a postponement. They postponed their game in the playoffs following one of the, I can't even remember. There were so many of
Kenosha. It's Kenosha, Wisconsin. The Bucks sat out.
There we go.
Immediately. Didn't tell anybody, and LeBron was pissed.
Oh yeah. We'll get to that in a second, but
I was pissed at LeBron for being pissed.
Tell us about that, Brooks.
I think you had a funny video about that, Niko, yourself, just about how it seems like he kind of does have like an ego and he kind of does want to be able to control.
He's Capricorn. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, so it's just an interesting thing, man. But I'm gonna take the Pedro's lead here. He's gonna be teaching just a class at Morehouse, like he said, just about athlete activism. He's a big admirer of like Malcolm X, Martin Luther King. He's read a whole bunch of books about those type of things. And this kind of like leads to what another topic about Justin Jackson, but Niko and Dave, man, like how important are these classes? Like, how do you teach them if you were Chris Webber?
Man, so I'm an activist also, and I'm an organizer, and I feel like the reason I got into doing what I do as far as on the politics side for my show is that people weren't educated enough on the organization or the activism and how that should play into how they pursue their politics. And I should say this, not every activist understands politics. Every politician or politico, or, you know, somebody who's actively involved in politics understands activism. There's two different types of energies and two different types of organization. But I will say this. I don't know what Chris Webber's actual politics are. And that's probably a good thing, because your activism with the issue that you're fighting for, in my humble opinion, should not be married to a politician, political party, a political stance. When you're talking about activism, these are issues of equity, equal rights, human rights, something that should be indiscernible, or completely and totally distinguishable from politics. What Kareem was fighting for was separate from politics. What Ali was fighting for when his boxing license got taken, because he was like, I'm not going to go to deploy and kill more people of color and poor people. That's, in my opinion, that's not politics. That's human rights. And so for Chris Webber and by the way, I've never considered Chris Webber one of those people who I feel like has an attachment to anything. I just feel like Chris Webber just kind of always gone with the flow. And to see him go to Morehouse, which is, for those, that's a HBCU, but it's like the HBCU. Yeah, it's like Morehouse and Howard are like there.
Right across the street from Spelman.
Yeah, and for
Morehouse man is made,
Yeah, and from his perspective, or from their perspective, I should say, if Morehouse is looking at you and like, you have demonstrated enough knowledge on this issue to teach an activism class as an NBA player and an athlete, that's a big deal, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. That's a big deal, and I hope that Chris Webber takes more time to educate himself, even more so. But like, if you're actually reading Malcolm X, if you're actually reading all of Martin Luther King, not just the watered down version of him, Fred Hampton, same thing, you do begin to realize the same thing that people like Ice Cube and others have realized, which is that our activism cannot and should not be co-opted by their politics, and we have to lead our movements and do what's best for us, whatever that movement may be, because it's different for different people. And obviously you want to work with other movements as well, but like, those movements should not be attached to politics. And I hope that's the message that he takes into Morehouse as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's for those that don't know, Chris Webber, retired NBA player. He used to play for the Kings. He got drafted by the Warriors back in the day, which ended up becoming Penny Hardaway with the Magic via trade. For the
Bullets too.
And for the Bullets. So
he's Wizards.
He's definitely played on a couple of teams, but he was a good player, 5-time All-Star. And then outside of that, now he's been a commentator, and he's been pretty good in his second career. And now for him to do something like this is definitely him stamping himself as just being somebody that wants to make a change outside of what he's doing in the sports world. And for him to do it at a HBCU, it's definitely big time. And honestly, I haven't really seen this trending too much. I feel like this kind of topic should be more of a trending topic, right?
I don't want to interrupt, but you know what? So I don't know if y'all see that meme, the Toy Story meme, where you remember whenever Andy was dropping, like it was a nightmare that
with this
he was dropping them. He was like, I don't want to play with you anymore. That's basically what happened when the Democratic Party won the election. They dropped off BLM, dropped off Me Too, dropped off all the police brutality and social justice.
Dropped off 2K checks,
stimulus checks.
Bruh,
yeah, that's over.
I don't want to play with you anymore. So now what he's doing isn't revolutionary. All of a sudden. And this is what I hope, and I hope Chris Webber remembers this. I hope he remembers this, because this is a time we need this. Not when everybody can be easily distracted by elections and politicians. When everyone's not paying attention, that's when lives get taken in silence. And so I hope Chris Webber remembers this going into his class.
Dave, I want to ask you this.
Complacency with it. He has a really unique experience, because with Michigan, he's always kind of stood up for individualism in terms of being part of the Fab Five and fighting for how they were able to dress and express themselves as college players, for having shoe deals at the time. So he's been on the cusp of revolutionary changes in the NBA. Then he's had the unique experience of being a star in the NBA, a star who had a championship ring stole from him by the refs in the Western Conference Finals, right? So because if they get past the Lakers, that team most likely wins versus New Jersey. And then we're talking about Chris Webber as the, Hall of Famer that he is, but as a one-time champion. So that's a huge deal. So he's had the unique experience of being a star player in college that was on the cusp of revolution, a superstar player in the league at the height of Chris Webber was playing against KG, Dirk, and Tim Duncan. It's not like he's going against scrubs. So he's making his name when it really matters. And then he has the on-air personality of being reporter and analyst. So he has a unique experience about how the media is going to be able to perceive and handle activism that comes. Now, the thing that I find very interesting about this is that it's a class on activism, which means that what you're attempting to bring to your students is how to organize and how to think, not which issues you should fight for, but when an issue is important, how do you fight for it? How do athletes put that at the forefront, and how do agents correspond with that, and how is social media affected, and how does that affect your money ultimately? Those are all things that you have to learn about, because any activism that you participate in, any issue that you put your stamp on and say this is important to me, that's where it comes from, right?
And activism, to be frank, if you do it the right way, because there's no hiding anymore, right? Either you're like, especially I feel like for an NBA player, you're either on the right side of history or you're not, or you're and by sitting back and watching it happen, that's considered not being on the right side of history, which is why you even see Michael Jordan has turned over a new leaf. And if y'all don't mind, I would like to read this quote from Chris Webber that was like,
go for it.
It was inspirational, but it just kind of showed that he's not like Dave said, he's an individual. And this quote demonstrates that. He said, Nelson Mandela said sports had the power to change the world. This man was locked away for 27 years in prison and says it's more powerful than the government in causing political change. Wow. And he's right, because it's really the voice of the people, Weber said. I get to honor those that make sacrifices for humanity. I get to honor them. I make sure that they stay relevant, hopefully introduce them to a whole new community of people, and have it be inclusive, have it galvanize people and not be polarizing. So he's already letting us know that this whole thing is surrounded by activism and people. And for him to know that Nelson Mandela said that, and I'm in politics and I know a lot about Nelson Mandela, I never knew he said that. So that lets you know, like, Weber's in his bag and he takes this very seriously. So I'm looking forward to this, and I might even, see if I can catch one of his seminars online for when I know he's going to promote it. So, but I am excited to see where this goes, and I hope, hell, man, maybe some of these NBA players need to sit on in this class as well.
Yeah, I think it's cool that it's HBCU. I mean, for myself, I attended HBCU in North Carolina, at North Carolina A&T State University, right? And from my experience there, like, one of the things is they're constantly teaching you how to think rather than what to think.
That's a UNC system thing.
And like, I haven't always gotten that experience from education, but I did feel like I got that at HBCU, where we're not trying to convince you that this is correct. We want to give you the tools to be able to decipher your own opinion and your own stances, and kind of empower autonomy. And that's what I think that he can bring with a class on activism, is like the empowerment of his students to be autonomous in which things that they support and which efforts they want to put their time and resources into to get them to be most effective. I hope that he's able to bring in former players as well through his connections, to have them come to campus and talk about things that they do or organizations that they're part of, or NBA cares, like that kind of stuff would be dope. And a lot of them go overseas and do like that kind of stuff. So
we bring Stack 5 in there, man. Stack 5 is good. I don't know if y'all know, but he had like a low key. They didn't report it, but Stack talked about it. Him and LeBron's organization had a falling out because he said he ain't like the way that they was moving about their business, but he didn't want to throw them under the bus. But like, if you watch the video, you involved in politics, and you know how like the NBA can get down sometimes. Not necessarily the NBA, but like how Chris Paul and LeBron can be very egocentric when it comes to something. Like they have the best union in the damn world for any sport. Right. Mm-hmm. And they're the reason why that is. Like, I want to be clear about that. Yeah. But on the other side of that fence, Chris Paul and LeBron are known for having egos. And when the Bucks decided not to play, his main thing was, oh, why didn't y'all consult it with me so we could figure out? He's like, oh, so what's next? What's next? That's not what you were concerned with, because what's next for you? You haven't said anything after you made everybody go on the tank for Biden, and look what's happening. Have you been advocating for the 2K checks? Have you said, hey, we put all this money and power behind you. What are you going to do with that energy? You're making us look foolish. Obama made them keep playing after that situation, or he asked them to keep playing. But when you do that, obviously, when Obama says something, LeBron and Chris Paul have to listen, because they use him as well. So, like, what are you going to do about that if you're LeBron? But he ain't handled business, in my opinion, like an activist, whereas Chris Webber seemingly only and ever is concerned about the just be like making sure that everything is equitable, and making sure that other people know how to advocate for that same equity, because they were successful in what they advocated for the most part with the Fab Five.
Like you said, man, he's an individual in this. Outside of LeBron, sorry to cut you off there, but in LeBron, you know, he's got a lot more vested interest in certain things happening and certain things not happening. So
made a lot of money with that nonprofit, bro.
Mm-hmm.
He made millions and millions and millions of dollars, and that's what he was concerned about. And that's what's unfortunate. And like I said, I just want to see, you know, Chris Webber, Justin Jackson, who we're about to talk about in a little bit, and that's my dog. Yep. Like, I'm proud of Justin. We're gonna talk about that, but I'm proud of Justin because and I'm not gonna spoil it now, but there's something that actually already started taking place that he's been having to deal with since just being vocal online. So
matter of fact, we might as well just jump into that because we're actually we're about to run over the hour mark. Let's go ahead and get into this last topic here about Justin Jackson, the keeping it into sports, talking about, but Justin Jackson is meshing now. You got a professional football player, the running back for the Los Angeles Chargers, and now he's made his own YouTube channel. It's called The Takeoff, right? Or The Takeover. The Takeover. Justin Jackson, The Takeover, just started his channel not too long ago. Already got like 4K subs, people coming in. He's been a big advocate for independent media, for specifically, you know, when it comes to the political stuff. You've seen him be a advocate for Medicare for All, had the exchange with AOC on Twitter, was on Jimmy Dore's show, on Michael Brooks' show. So this guy has definitely been getting busy in the political world and getting himself informed as well as informing other people. He even has a video that I was watching. If you're new to politics, you know, I've obviously been getting secondhand politics a lot by doing work with Franco and Brooks. Yeah, but sure. It's always nice to see stuff like this. Shout out to Frank Analysis, by the way, who set this interview up in the first place. So definitely big shout out to Frank Analysis. Go subscribe to him as well. We'll have that whenever I say link in the description, just go check that description. It's going to be down there. Justin Jackson, and we wanted to talk about this, man. Is this going to be more of a positive or negative impact for his athletic career as well as his personal life?
If he does it right, it'll be a positive impact, and I'm gonna tell you why.
For both.
For both, yeah, absolutely.
How could he do it right? Is the question.
Say what?
How could he do it right, in your opinion?
So Justin, let me just say this. So Justin, I was Justin's very, very, very first political interview. Justin had like 3,000 subscribers, and followers on Twitter, not even subscribers. And which is funny because he actually had one of the best fantasy years that same year. So it's kind of weird to see a player that like is like kind of known in part of the football world playing for LA of all teams with Phillip Rivers of all quarterbacks and still not being all that well known, but he was ever present in the political space. A lot of people remember he would always retweet me or Jimmy or whatever. So then we do an interview and I'm like, man, this kid is smart as hell. Like not just a little aware, but was very cognizant and aware of not just the spectacle of politics, the horse race, but the intricacies of politics and people like Tulsi Gabbard and Jill Stein and Ron Paul and Mike Gravel. Like, so the people that you don't hear about every day, but you know are some of the most important people of our political landscape. And so he had gone on my show, then he went on a few other shows after, and he just carried himself in such a way that was like, it was almost inspiring because you're like, man, is this still the real deal? Cause I don't know. There's no way that he's this authentic. And he's just like, I just want to see the NFL get. He's so humble, man. He's so humble. I'm just texting him yesterday. Like I asked him to interview one of my friends who's running for Congress. Of course, as soon as I figure out how to do it, man, I'm doing. I got you. Like that's just the type. I asked him to go on a friend's show who had 400 subscribers, bro. I was like, yo, she's your biggest fan, man. And it turns out he just happened to be a fan of her already on Twitter. So he was like, yeah, absolutely, I'll do it. He's just that kind of guy. And he wants to see the NFL unionize, but in a legitimate union. He wants to see them take their power and apply it to making sure they're secure on the field. And of course, taking that and being activists off the field. So I know a lot of people, I love Colin Kaepernick. What he did was amazing. I like that. What he did was just absolutely, I can't believe that he even still went through with it. But Justin is your next Kareem. Justin is your next Ali. Justin is the type that's going to talk about the politics you don't want to hear about. And so luckily he's in an era where now he got us now. So if the NFL came for Justin's jugular, it would be the worst decision they ever made. because we're going to back him, and the independent media runs the political and activism space, in case people haven't noticed, which is why they're always gunning for us. And so they know that if we go up against them, the facts are going to be on our side. And Justin's personalities, it lends itself to being you just want to support the dude because everything he does is for the right reason. And so if he does it the right way, continues to coalesce with the rest of the independent media space, making sure, pick your battles. He's been very brilliant at doing so. Start out with 3,000. Man's 100,000 plus now, but he isn't known for playing football because he was injured for most of the year. Right. But he's already taken one hit. Even after his breakout run the last couple of weeks of the season, they stopped interviewing him.
Yeah, Justin Jackson. Wow. That's sense. What I'm saying. This guy he's 24 years old. I think he's like in his second or third year, and the guy is just so humble, so genuine. When I was listening to this video, it's not every day that you get to hear somebody, and you know when you get on to these YouTube videos, I know when y'all are watching, you can tell when you're hearing somebody and you're just like, you just can't stop listening to you. It's just real shit that he's
Zion.
saying.
Listen to Zion's interview for the first time with JJ Redick. Yeah, I don't know if y'all ever checked that out.
He did a podcast with JJ. I didn't even hear that one yet.
That's the only interview Zion Williamson has ever done on a podcast.
Wow. I need to. Oh, that was during quarantine. Yeah. That was during quarantine. I think I did see that.
It was one of JJ Redick's first episodes too. And man, I'm listening to Zion, and I had the same feel like, bro, this dude is really humble. He's like, man, I just want to play, man. I just want to help the team as best as I can. Like, I don't really care about that YouTube stuff, man. I just want to go play bad. But that's just how Justin is. Justin wants to play football, but you know what he cares about more? Because he knows after Justin's extremely intelligent. I'm gonna be fine. If I don't make an NFL, even if I did, I'd be fine. But he's worried about the person who isn't Justin Jackson, who doesn't know what their passion is after they leave, or doesn't know the value of what they bring to the field outside of what the team tells them their value is, or try to dictate what their value is. That's what makes Justin so special. And in my opinion, that's also what's going to potentially make him one of the most influential players in the NFL on the field as well, because that's a locker room presence. Imagine right now, for example, Justin gets traded to the Bucs, which I think is not unrealistic. He could end up on the Bucs. And if this guy teams up with somebody like a Tom Brady, where you have a group of black coaches who are being simultaneously shunned. Now, who better to advocate for my black coach to be hired for other NFL organizations to highlight how the NFL has a double standard when it comes to its hiring process than a running back who is so well in the political community? All you have to sit down is one text and we'll cover it with you, bro. If you're advocating for that guy and you're noticing this means this is a bigger problem than what people pretend it is. Now you have the entire political community behind your sports cause, because that cause is still emblematic of what everybody is dealing with, whether it's the corporate world, the sports world, political world, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. That's the type of power that Justin is potentially going to be wielding, and I have all the confidence in the world that he'll wield it the right way.
Niko, I want to ask you this question really quick, because I think about this a lot in my head. NBA players, NFL players, right, banding together, being able to start causes. You could get the New York Knicks and the Brooklyn Nets, right, KD, Kyrie, maybe like Austin Rivers, someone like that, be able to band together and say, AOC, why aren't you doing this, that, and the third? Why aren't you advocating for 2K checks? Why aren't you fighting for healthcare like you said you would? Do you see Justin Jackson being able to do that?
Yes, I do, actually. And he tagged Kyle Cousin the other day, and I meant to ask him about that. I wanted to see how it turned out. But I don't know if you noticed, but it seems like a lot of the times, in the NBA, when everybody's yelling from the mountaintop about whatever the hell cause or hashtag, Kyle Kuzma is the only one who really be paying attention. I don't know if y'all noticed that.
Flint,
Kyle
Michigan.
Kuzma was like, because of Flint. Because of Flint. He was like, that's funny because neither one of y'all been back to Flint since y'all said y'all was going to be back, and that was 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And so he said all the parties abandoned us. He's the only one. And Justin in the NFL, in my opinion, seems to be that's why I said that's the difference between him and Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick, unfortunately, is kind of falling into the trap of the Democrats or the good guys. Now, I feel like I got a feeling that he's probably figuring out the hard way. That was a lie. But, that's the difference, right? Not every activist can be involved in politics. Justin is one of those rare cases. I think Kyle Kuzma could be one of those rare cases. You got two LA connects right there. We can make it. Justin is the kind of guy that can make it happen. And he knows we got his back the whole way.
That's dope, man, that y'all got that connection, man. And the difference, I would say, between Justin Jackson, and it's probably maybe early to say, but the difference between Justin Jackson and Colin Kaepernick is Colin Kaepernick over the span of what happened to him became a bit of a martyr in that situation. So we see Justin Jackson genuinely seems like he cares about, not just him, but like you said, the people that aren't Justin Jackson. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And Colin Kaepernick probably needed to be a martyr because he exposed a lot. But once again, Justin is like, you got to give Justin credit in this regard. He's too smart to be a martyr. Sure. He's too smart. He knows how to navigate just well enough, like where now he's once again more famous for politics, but the LA Rams, even because they kind of had an excuse to let him go if they wanted beef. They could have let him go off of injury alone. They haven't done it. Well, also because he produces every time he comes back. But like just the last year, they could have let him go because that was the first major injury that he had. They haven't done it.
So that's one of my questions.
Because he knows for some reason he had the locker room on his side while he's growing and becoming more known for politics than anything else. What'd you say, Dave?
Is he going to stay in LA? Is that his choice? Is that what he would want?
I can't speculate. I can't speculate.
You can't speculate on that.
So
you don't think there's any connection with the location that he plays in his political career, or
no? There's no connection there.
It's not going to be. Okay.
There's no connection there.
Okay. I was just interested to see if that was a factor in like.
My guy travels all over the country to go he went to like New York and hung out with some political people there. Like and like I said, he's just the type of dude where I want to do this no matter where I'm at. I feel like now he is finally realizing, hold up, I'm in LA. I have all these podcast friends. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have LA. Why am I not doing this?
Yeah.
Like, because he knows. And now I think that he has his confidence, right? Because he started on my show. And this is when I had way less subscribers. Ends up on Jimmy Dore's show, going toe-to-toe with AOC. And Justin Jackson exposed AOC to the point where now nobody trusts her.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Yo, that's
when I started myself.
That whole Jimmy Dore situation with the Medicare for all, that all stemmed from the Justin Jackson exchange. That's insane. Yeah.
When he came on my show to talk about it, I was like, Justin, bro, you're the reason nobody likes AOC no more. You know that? He was like,
that's probably cool.
I mean, damn, when you put it like that, I was like, but appreciate you. Because I've been trying to say that, I've been trying to call her out, but Justin's been more than fair to everybody. So you and AOC testing him and try to come at him because she didn't think Justin knew his shit. That's a dumbass football player. That's what she thought.
Right.
Yeah, that shit didn't go the way she planned it to. But because of Justin putting himself in a situation, we don't know how that could have went, bro. He could have got bombarded. Like he could have slipped up and said one thing off, one thing wrong, one thing offensive. And y'all know AOC has this ability to weaponize anything that you say that could be taken as offensive to her. He all smiles and just exposed her ass and let her expose herself.
Yep.
And when you once again, you're on LA, you're a running back, you're a damn good running back, and you're extremely intelligent. And to be frank, he a black man, bro. Like, and he's a black man that can put himself in just unique people could put themselves in any space, whether it's with a bunch of white people, a bunch of black people, and be accepted any and everywhere and have his message received any and everywhere. And be in the NFL, we see those players go to the NBA usually, not in the NFL. And Justin just has that personality and the wherewithal and the intelligence and the knowledge base to do something we haven't seen done in sports, which is potentially unite the athletes behind the right causes. I know y'all want to talk about the vaccines, and Justin, he's not pro-vaccine or anti-vaccine, but he is. Players should have their autonomy, and nobody should be bullying them into doing anything whatsoever. Yeah. And that in and of itself is a cause worth fighting for. And he's also a person who's been open about that on Twitter and hasn't received any, because his logic is sound.
I don't know if
definitely, guy.
My fault, Pedro.
I was just gonna say, he just before we get onto that, I just want to give him mad props for that. The fact that he went into that exchange, because Twitter exchanges can get ugly sometimes. And this man, Justin Jackson, he handled it. He handled it like a man. He handled it perfectly. He didn't get outside of himself in that exchange. Like you said, AOC did kind of, test him a little bit to see just how far. And like we said before, if you're only good at one thing, you won't get that far. And this guy is blessed to be good at not only football, but the other things too, like the political and being able to communicate. So he definitely got that going. So what were we going to ask, Brooks?
I was going to say two things. One of them was, and I know for Justin Jackson, and for those of you who don't know, he went to Northwestern at the same time that they were trying to unionize as a college football team and try to change the landscape of the whole NCAA. So it's not like this guy is completely new to these things. He's got some base knowledge in there, which is great
He
to
was
see.
pissed, bro. You know, he had like one of the highest jersey sales in Northwestern history. Didn't see a dime because he was the best running back. He's one of the best running backs in the country when he got drafted.
Yeah, that's crazy.
They had like a winning record. They had one it forever.
So my question for you is this, man. Would you want Justin Jackson to stay within activism, or would you want him to get into electoral politics? I know it can get super complicated with that, but yeah.
Electoral politics is dead, man. We can't get nothing done in electoral politics till we start so the reason that we got the civil rights amendments, a lot of people don't realize this. So Lyndon B. Johnson was a racist. He was a bleeding heart racist. The media called him a connoisseur of the N-word. But because they were terrified of the 10% of the country that was not going to let this fight die, after we saw what happened when obviously with MLK, Fred Hampton, even JFK, when he began working with them, and Nelson Mandela and Fidel Castro in a positive way, like people had the government shook. That's where we need them to be at, where you are so worried about your office that like even with all of your power, the negative attention is what makes the elite decide to move their chess piece. Not voting. Voting is like, I hate to say it's kind of irrelevant, but for the national level, not the local level as much, but the national level, federal level voting, bro, y'all votes don't count for shit. Y'all know that, right? Like, I hate to break it to you, but as long as there's voting machines here that don't get their proprietary software, which means the software is private, we don't have access to them, and yet you're paying for the software with your tax dollars, like, until that gets taken care of, you don't have any say from that perspective. But when you have athletes, why do you think they work so hard to get so many athletes and celebrities behind Biden? Because that does matter. The public perception does matter. And if Justin Jackson works with other athletes like Kyle Kuzma and others to bring attention to issues first and foremost, that's what's going to make politicians do what we want, even if they don't want to. And that's the position we want them to be in, a position where they can be held accountable.
Nice. Hey, Justin, man, we would love to have you on HMO. Definitely.
Yeah, man.
That
would be a dope link up, man.
You see how they just did y'all? Y'all see how they just did y'all?
Now
they got Justin Jackson.
Hey,
we love to have you. Come on. Yeah, put me in position. It's okay. Y'all not the first one. That's
I would plug you right in camera just like that. Yep.
But I would say we can get into this vaccine topic, but we'll save that one for another day. We are running short on time today. I want to thank Niko and David for joining us today. Mikasa Sukasa. Anything else you guys want to leave the people with before we get out of here today?
Hey, just go follow us on YouTube at Double Tech. Same thing on Rockfin, ROKFIN at Double Tech. You know, we're definitely looking forward to have y'all come on the show sometime soon. Sure. Definitely. And like I said, this was a great
we'd love to have you for sure. Double Tech, man. Check us out. Love to talk about LeBron, LaMelo, and the whole organization of psychological problems in the NBA and how people are influencing decisions, drafting, coaching, and chemistry on the floor. Like that's what we mainly focus on. So come join us over there, and it'll be a good time.
LaMelo!
Yeah.
Yes, sir. LaMelo.
Second Melo.
LaMelo.
Go.
There's only one Melo that matters, and that's Carmelo Anthony.
Man, LaMelo, bless me.
Fan.
I used to say that.
Oh shit! Is that his rookie card?
That is the teal explosion rare LaMelo rookie card.
Yeah. You see it.
You better put that shit. You better bro. You better put that shit in the safe.
Keep that because you know.
Put it in the safe.
Yes, sir.
You know what's happening next. Rookie of the year, first All-Star appearance.
My man's Dave is mad about his 2K. They ain't got him right on 2K yet.
They ain't got him right on 2K, man. He's not finishing in the paint like he needs to be because of some missed layups.
2K is just a terrible game.
Quick question,
man.
David. You want PlayStation or Xbox for your 2K?
We on PlayStation.
PlayStation.
Baby.
Say no more, man. I'm gonna need that PlayStation Network, man.
I got you, man. Hey, look, I feed work in FIFA. I feed work in 2K. You really don't want to see me at FIFA. I'm just gonna save y'all lives there.
Nobody. Hey, FIFA, y'all got it, man. But 2K, man, we'll see what's up.
2K, I'm all about it. Madden, I'm all about it.
Woo! No, don't play him in Madden. It's a setup. Don't play it. It's a setup. Bro.
Hey, man, we'll see what's up with that. Hey, we do live streams with the gaming and everything. So whenever y'all are trying to come on and do like a gaming stream, man, we are always open for that. Yes, sir.
I got it. So we gotta make sure.
Again, man. Thank you guys.
Y'all
PS4. Say, Niko?
My
bad. What you say?
I said y'all PS5 or PS4.
Oh man, I'm on the old gen, man. PS4.
Okay,
we're still on PS4. We're not PS5
I'm getting
yet.
PS5 next week, but I'm probably gonna have to play on because nobody really got like PS5.
Yeah,
like that,
not big balling yet for it.
Yeah, not quite yet. When those 8K monitors drop in price, man, best believe I'm buying a monitor and a PS5, bro.
Boy, that 8K monitor expensive. It was 5K? Is how much it costs?
It's like 6, 7-ish.
Jeez. So look at a damn screen, bro.
Yeah, man.